Hey everybody, how's it going? Thank you for being here tonight. Welcome to Comic Book Radio. This is episode 134. I'm your host Peter Simeti, and tonight my guest is Otis Frampton. We're going to be talking about creating indie comics for all ages. Otis has a book called Oddly Normal. If you guys haven't seen it yet, you can go to his website. The link is in the description of the show. Before we bring him on, I want to say hello to those of you in the chat. Actually, even before I do that, let's get this out of the way. It's the last day for December's New Moon special on the King Cryptid campaign. You can get 2 bookmarks, a glow-in-the-dark bumper sticker, and a fridge magnet for just $15, free shipping worldwide. You got to check those things out. They are very awesome looking. If you know King Cryptid, it features the behemoth on the bumper sticker and Broog, the swamp monster, on the fridge magnet. If you read issue 4, you know Broog is obsessed with eating. So it's perfect for your fridge. It says, feed your inner Broog, and he's on there. So you can go to kingcryptid.com or alternacomics.com/kingcryptid. Again, tonight is the last night to get that New Moon special. And why the New Moon? Well, we do a New Moon and a Full Moon special because King Cryptid's power set ebbs and flows with the phases of the moon being the lowest on the New Moon and the highest on the Full Moon. Also, if you guys haven't seen, in the community tab of the channel, I'm taking commissions for 5-minute sketch cards and 1-minute sketch cards. Unexpected expenses. Expensive expenses. Everything's fine. But, car-related stuff. This time of year, it just kind of gets you. And so I'm taking on commission work. I got a bunch of spots open if you guys want to check it out. 1-minute sketches. There's examples there of both the 1-minute and the 5-minute sketches. 1-minute sketches are $5, free shipping worldwide. 5-minute sketches, $25, free shipping worldwide. Check it out. There's information on how to get in touch with me on what you would like. I'll draw any character for you on those cards. Either way, thank you guys so much for being here tonight. So before we bring Otis on, I want to say hello to you guys. We got Eric Housel here. What's up, Eric? Hope you're doing well. Says can't stay, but gonna catch the replay. Cool. It's gonna be a good show. Jay Tunes, what's up? Hope you're doing well. We got Levi Skeen here too. How's it going, Levi? Ben is in the chat. What's up, Ben? We got Jaded One here. How's it going, Jaded One? Thank you for being here tonight. The Beam Pad says, ooh, made it. Hello, Pete. Hi, chat. Hey, Beam Pad. Manny's here. What's up, Manny? Hope you're doing well. John's Longbox is in the house. What's up, John? Thank you for catching the show today. Robert, what's up, Robert? Hope you're doing good. Thank you for being here tonight. Otis is fire. He's a talented dude. He really is. We got Wayne here. What's up, Wayne? How's it going? Spicer, what's going on, Spicer? Hope you're doing good. Thank you for being here tonight. Spicer, can we combine some? Yeah, well, if you want to do that, sure. It'll be incremental, of course, in the charge. But you can combine some minutes. That's clever. Yeah, sure. What's up, Yan Zhao? Hope you're doing good. Thank you for being here tonight. Cole King is in the house as well. What's up, Cole? All right, so without further ado, let's bring him on, the man of the hour, Mr. Otis Frampton. How's it going, Otis?
Hey, Pete. How's it going? Good to be here.
It's going good. Thank you for being here. Man, oh man, this time of year, huh?
Yeah, this year.
For
me, anyway.
It feels like this 5 to 10 years.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's interesting. Man, thank you for being on the show. Really appreciate it. I dig your work. I really I'm curious tonight to see how the conversation will go, because there's a lot of questions I have for you that I think you'll be able to answer, or at least give me your experience, which is important. So as far as what you're doing, and people might not be aware of it, let's give them a quick summary of that.
Well, currently I have my series, Oddly Normal. As you said, it's an all-ages series published by Image Comics. I elevator pitch it like it's Wizard of Oz meets Harry Potter meets Monsters, Inc. That's the quick elevator pitch. I also have 2 web comics that I do that are exclusive to my newsletter, which have been neglected as of late because I've had some medical problems. But one of them is an original sci-fi webcomic called The Mighty U-By, and the other is a comic book adaptation of the seventh Oz book, written by L. Frank Baum, The Patchwork Girl of Oz.
Oh, okay.
And
Wow, nice.
as soon as I have enough for to print for both of those, I'll be doing some crowdfunding campaigns. But
Oh, okay, cool.
got to get enough done.
Yeah, yeah. Man, I'm hearing a weird. Is the vent coming back on? Anybody else hear that? I'm hearing like a weird like.
Maybe that will
Oh,
fix it.
there you go. What was that?
I don't know. I've never had problems with. I just did an interview last week with somebody and I didn't have these problems, so this is weird. I apologize.
All right, no problem. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now it's good.
Okay.
Interesting.
I just took the microphone off of my desk. Something must be
Oh, okay.
buzzing somewhere.
Something must have been, yeah, vibrating or
Yeah.
moving around or whatever. All right. So you're creating. You seem to focus anyway on a lot of all ages material. Can I ask you why? Why is that your preference? It seems to be.
Because it's what I like. It's what I like to consume as a reader for the most part. I mean, there are exceptions, but the things that influence me are pretty much all ages things. In that that extends to movies and TV shows and everything. So that's why I created. I like creating all ages stuff, and even the original sci-fi webcomic that I'm doing, Mighty You By. I would consider that all ages, at least for now. There might be some time in the future when kids might stop reading it, but I just like that kind of storytelling, and it's what I gravitate towards.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it seems like I don't know if it's just me, but it seems like a lot of things used to be considered all ages. Now it seems like it's almost like a weird four-letter word. You say all ages to some people, and they think it's just aimed directly at kids, and it's like mind mush.
Yeah,
And that's
totally
not
agree.
really what all ages is.
I kind of go for the Miyazaki or the Pixar angle, at least Pixar in the early years, where they were aiming their stuff not just at kids, even though it was all ages, but it's cartoons that can be watched by adults, and they're not going to want to retch when they watch it, and they're not going to cringe at every stupid modern reference that's thrown in. I try to keep it like that, sort of the idea that all ages actually should mean all ages, and it doesn't these days, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah. The adults could read it and enjoy it, and I mean, people used to call it something like family friendly and things like that. Those were some other monikers for all ages, but yeah, the fact that adults should be able to get into it too, it usually just tends to mean like what, like not strong language, sexual content, nudity, gore, action over violence, that kind of a thing.
Sure. It's the PG. It's more PG than G is what I'm aiming for. Maybe closer. If there's if you measured it, it would be a little bit this way. But I certainly don't hold back when I think the story calls for it.
Yeah. Well, what are some of the things over the years that influenced you in terms of creators and content?
Well, in terms of comics, I grew up in reading comics in the '80s. So it was John Byrne, Frank Miller, Jim Starlin. One of my favorite, most of my favorite creators are one man bands. They do everything pretty much except for maybe coloring and lettering. But I grew up reading, the three that I mentioned. They had great content that they wrote and drew. That's what influenced me. I took a little break from comics in the late '80s, early '90s, and then when I got back into comics in the early '90s. The first comic that caught my eye when I walked into a comic shop after like 5 years of not reading comics was Todd McFarlane's Spawn. #1 had just come out, and I happened to walk into a comic shop and see it, and I just never seen anything like it. I loved his cartoony way. Growing up in the '80s, I kind of thought that maybe I wouldn't be able to do comics professionally because I was more of a cartoonist. And when I saw his stuff and Matt Wagner's work on the Legends of the Dark Knight Faces 3-part series, it was very, very cartoony. And I was like, well, maybe I can do this. Maybe there is a place for me in this world. But then beyond that, like I've already mentioned, Miyazaki, Studio Ghibli films are a big influence on me in terms of how I try to approach stuff. I try not to treat it like it's, going for the lowest common denominator. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But as far as comics go, like I was really big time influenced in the mid '90s by a comic called Akiko by Mark Crilly. It was a black and white. I think it was published by Eclipse, and that was very much in the sort of vein of girl goes to a Fantasyland thing, which is a lot. That's the primary story of Oddly Normal, and I love those kinds of stories. Love them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I could see why you're drawn to Wizard of Oz as well then.
Yeah, big time, big time. I like since I was a kid, I read the Baum novels, the 14 that he wrote. I always wanted to do like a Wizard of Oz adaptation, and then right when I was thinking of maybe doing it as a webcomic, that's when Marvel put out their adaptation with Scotty Young drawing, and there was another one that Image published by a European artist. I forget his name, something Hernandez. Or Fernandez, but both these came out at the same time, and I was like, I guess I can't do that. So it was a couple of years ago when I decided that it was maybe time because Marvel stopped at book 6, and I thought, well, I love book 7. Why don't I do that one?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that it's kind of like constantly going back to the well of Wizard of Oz, but losing sight that there were so many other books.
Yeah.
That expanded upon that world and that story.
Yeah, there's a lot of great content. And if anybody has seen the 1980s movie Return to Oz, that movie
was great.
It was a lot more like the Baum novels. It was sort of based on two of them. Yeah, it was great. It was great. Yeah. I loved it. Yeah, some good stuff. Although, I mean, there's some dark stuff in the 39 version of Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, yeah.
They melt the witch.
True.
And
yeah.
The Scarecrow's carrying a revolver at one point. That was weird.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Return to Oz. I watched that again last year for the first time in 15 years, and it was even better.
Yeah, it's
watching
really
it again. Movie. Yeah, I was like, I don't know because it's one of those ones I wasn't sure. Do I want to revisit this? Is this going to hold up? Is it going to be completely not what I remembered it to be? Because I loved it as a kid. And then when I watched it, I was like, wow, I got so much more out of it. Mm-hmm. And then really seeing how stories like that are treated nowadays, I'm like, man, they would not have made this kind of thing today. It would have been either dumbed down or adulted up into something that it really kind of shouldn't be. And then maybe Dorothy would be aged out of it. And it really wouldn't be an all ages kind of thing. So just to see that, it was great. I mean, anybody in the chat, if you guys have seen Return to Oz, let us know. But the practical effects mixed with some
stop motion.
Yeah, the stop motion. Yeah, it was great.
It's aged well, the movie. I think people weren't ready for it. They wanted a sequel to the 39 musical version, and that's not what it was. Although it did sort of do the, Dorothy comes from the real world, and it's kind of a dream kind of thing. But yeah, it's a good movie. It's aged very well.
Oh yeah, yeah. TikTok before before TikTok meant something else.
Yeah,
love TikTok. The character.
Yes, I agree. I had to ditch my account a while back.
I didn't even bother. I looked at it and I'm like, man, this makes me feel really old real fast. Yes. I'm just like, I just don't. I got more than enough social media to drive me nuts as it is. Yeah, I agree, man. All those 80s kids movies were awesome. I'm guessing you probably dug Dark Crystal too, huh?
Yeah, I did. That's actually one of the first comics I ever read was the Marvel Dark Crystal adaptation.
Oh,
it came
nice.
out the year that I started reading comics. And so that's kind of, I mean, the movie and the comic to me are almost synonymous in a way because I absorbed them both at the same time. So
yeah,
but yeah, that was a great movie. Great movie.
Yeah.
Beautiful movie. Also too ahead of its time, I think. Henson swinging for the fences, big time.
Oh yeah. Well, that was what was so great about him. He really didn't hold back when it came to so many things. One of the coolest things that I ever saw when I was a kid was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles card from the movie, the first one.
Yeah.
That had Jim Henson with the turtles.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my god, I didn't need another reason to absolutely love Jim Henson.
It was amazing. Was amazing.
Yeah, very much missed. So,
I'm sorry, he's an influence too. I mean,
oh yeah.
any of those creators who went their own way, Henson, Lucas, who built their own thing and said, "I'm going to do my own thing creatively, and I'm not going to listen to what Hollywood wants me to do." Big influences. Didn't mean to interrupt there, but I
Oh
want to
yeah,
throw
yeah.
that.
No problem. Interrupt away. Anything I say, interrupt.
I tried, but I couldn't.
So, as far as your stories go, where does that inspiration come from for your ideas? Other than obviously the things you're inspired by, there's always other things that inspire our stories and our characters. Where does some of that come from for you?
Well, with for oddly normal, it all started. It started in a weird way. It doesn't for me. My stories don't usually start with drawings. It's usually the writing side. I always think of myself as a writer who draws, not the other way around. Um, but I just drew this little sad girl in a sketchbook when I actually had one, and wrote the words oddly normal next to it, and it really kind of grew from there. Thinking, well, what if her name is oddly normal? What if her mother's she has parents. One is from a fantasy land, one's a human, that kind of thing. And that's where it grew from. And the influences. It's all a hodgepodge. It's Wizard of Oz. It's Akiko. It's Kiki's Delivery Service. I love these stories. That are sort of about a regular kid thrown into a fantasy or fantastic environment. Something like that.
Is there a little bit of like a wish fulfillment within that storytelling for you? A little bit of a catharsis?
I don't know about that. It's more that I'm drawn to more. I don't want to say like positive stories, but I never got into like horror or darker stuff. I really even today, especially today, I tend to gravitate towards like fun. You know,
Yeah,
and I always loved reading stories like the Roald Dahl novels. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory,
yeah,
James and the Giant Peach. I loved stories like that didn't talk down to me. As a reader and as a kid, I could always tell when the story was when the storytellers were talking down to me and treating me like I didn't know any better, or holding back and using words I might not understand because I was a kid. I grew up reading comics. My vocabulary started from comics in a sense because I would constantly come across a word in the comic like Uncanny X-Men. Claremont used big words. I'd have to look them up. It's part of my education, and I
yeah.
don't think that that's being done today for all ages comics.
Oh,
Which is
definitely not.
yeah,
They go, it's more than two syllables. What are you doing?
yeah, exactly. So I try to do that. I actually try to insert things that kids might not get, but if they read it again when they're an adult, they'll be like, "Oh, that went way over my head," but that's great. It's and so I don't hold back on references that I think that kids might not get, because I really, like I said, I just hated being talked down to when I was a kid like that.
I think that's part of what makes it really, really, truly all ages too. Because then when you're an adult, if you're reading it, it's not just like this baby talk, dumbed down thing, and you're kind of like, oh man, what is
Yeah,
this? But it actually it meets you at a intellectual level.
hmm
It's interesting how much that kind of stuff doesn't really happen as much anymore. And then thematically, that's a whole other level. There's a lot of things that even when I was a kid and I'll rewatch that I always watch again, like Batman the Animated Series or something like that, or books that I read when I was growing up, and I'll read those again, and I'm like, man, they just don't thematically
yeah,
touch upon stuff in that same way anymore. It's like if it makes you feel, they kind of try to almost get away from that in a big way. Every now and then there's something that comes along that does it sticks the landing, it's okay with it. It's confident with it. But sometimes there's so many things where it's like an impactful moment, and then it's got to be immediately broken up by something stupid or
yeah.
something that breaks up the levity or the impact, which is it's sad. It's a disservice, I think, to the storytelling.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've been thinking a lot lately about yeah, with Miyazaki's new movie having come out, The Boy and the Heron. I keep thinking, where is the American Miyazaki? Who's going to go out on a limb in a big way with a big studio picture that doesn't dumb down the storytelling? Or fill it with quips, even though it has enough serious material in it. I wish that there was something like that, but there just isn't right now.
Yeah, yeah. It's puzzling. It's interesting that you say that too, because yesterday I had on a guest who was talking about that as well, in terms of Miyazaki and
Oh,
especially in
but
terms
yeah,
of that. So it seems to be like a thing that's making people think right now. It's like in
I
the
hope so.
zeitgeist, and
I hope
yeah,
so.
hopefully it
Yeah.
finds its way. Hopefully it's like an earworm into the creative people out there that are like, yeah, why not? Why don't we do that? Someone should. Why not me? You
Yeah.
know, that kind of a thing.
Yes. Yes. If you're watching this right now and if you do animation, you should do that. It should be you. Somebody out there is doing it right now. I just know it. The latest Miyazaki movie is apparently the highest grossing Ghibli film in the U.S., which is strange to me because I mean I haven't seen it, but it doesn't feel as mainstream as some of his past films. But that's awesome. I mean that's great.
Yeah.
I hope an American studio picks up on that and says, hey, maybe that kind of thing does sell tickets.
Yeah, yeah, like maybe it's time to put away the fluff and get into stuff that feels like it matters again.
Yeah. Yep.
So when you're creating your comic, are there outside influences past the influences that you have, or is there anything that comes from, and you don't have to be specific about it, but comes from your personal life or your relationships or anything that when you grew up you knew certain people? Because some people bring in that type of thing with their stories. Anything like that with yours?
Well, actually, it's funny. I was just talking about this to somebody at an appearance I just made about how oddly normal is me, basically. I didn't realize that until I'd done a large chunk of what already exists. Uh, but there's a lot of me in the character. My parents transferred or moved when I was in second grade, so I went to a new school, just like oddly experienced bullies and in a whole different world because it was so different from where I'd come from before. There's a scene in the first Oddly Normal book that it happened to me. It's when bullies confront her and sort of take her down, and I didn't realize that I was writing something that was so autobiographical until after I'd done it. It was a really weird feeling reading it and going, "Oh my God, I can't believe I did that." I had no idea. So yeah, there's a lot of me in Oddly Normal. There's a lot of me in the character. Um, on the other hand, something like my web comic, The Mighty You Buy, there's there's nothing of me in it. It's just pure storytelling, and I like doing that too because I'm a big proponent of escapism. Just on its own. Uh, and so I think this is my attempt to do some just pure escapism and not try to rely on any personal feelings or personal
Yeah.
memories. I just want to tell a story.
It's interesting too when you create a story like that because you're almost having an escape within an escape.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
yeah. So it's like you're setting up this whole story, which for you is you're escaping into this world, but then you have a character that's also escaping into a world.
Hmm.
So you've got like almost like the dream within a dream kind of scenario going on.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of with Oddly Normal. It takes place in a fantasy land that is essentially the world of fiction come alive. It is the literal embodiment of the world of fiction. So every character who lives in that world is a fictional character that the real world can know about. And because of that, I kind of set it up that way so that I can draw whatever I want. So I don't ever have to get bored. You know what I mean? And so that's sort of an escapism for me as an artist. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that whole thing of magic, right? It is. You don't have to strive for every single thing. Has to be explained, has to be grounded, it has to, and it all goes back to making it as realistic as possible, which then sometimes you can then start removing the escapism and you start removing the fun and it turns into I guess almost more like it starts to become kind of more cynical. At least the stories I've read, where they could be fantastic, they could be over the top, they could be incredible, and just you would never think in a million years this could exist. But then as soon as there's elements that don't necessarily tie it down in terms of relatability because of the characters going through things in a metaphorical way, but start to be literal and start to have to tie it down and really make it make sense on every single level, which is to me it's just like, that goes against it because it's not going to make sense. You can have like a pseudoscience kind of feel behind it, to sort of explain something, but I feel like that, at least when I create, it becomes really difficult to create the things that seem impossible, because you don't these things don't exist in front of you. There is no proven science or anything for it, so you have to kind of come up with your own. And I'm not saying you
Yeah.
should just say it happens because, but coming up with your own kind of way of like why this happens, why is this occurring. I think that helps to kind of embolden the lore within the world.
Well, that's as writer. Well, with writers, for every thing that we create, it's like creating a little pocket universe that has its own rules.
Yeah.
And so you gotta, as a writer, you gotta kind of create rules that restrict the characters so that there can be conflict and there can be things to overcome. And sometimes that's really hard when you're talking about a world like Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings, where there's magic and anything seems possible. It can be tough. It's been tough for me with Oddly Normal because it feels like there's no limitations in the world she's in, but there are to me, and I've tried to sort of infuse it with that. Especially with the idea that like she's a real person in a fictional world. So even though bad things can happen to other characters and not really have much of an effect, they affect her. So that's one of the things that I had going for me as a writer, I think, with the story.
So what have been some of the for you when you're making an all ages comic? What have been some of the pros and cons towards going down that path?
Well, I'll let you know what the no, I'm kidding. I was gonna say I'll let you know when the pros come, but I mean, in terms of it's tough. It's tough in this environment, especially tough. I didn't do going to Image the right way. You know what I mean? I was kind of a nobody who went there, and through a blind pitch got picked up. These
And how
days, if you
long
look
ago was this? Around what year?
it was early 2014. I had planned on self-publishing it, but I printed up the first two chapters as like preview issues for conventions and stuff, and they were like full issues with even like fake letters columns and ads and stuff. And at a certain point, I was like, I'm just going to send these out and see what happens. I'm going to send them to 7 companies, see what happens. Sent them in the blind, got back 2 offers, and went with Image, and that's how it happened. But like I said, I did it wrong. Most people these days, most creators these days, I think the thing is to make your name outside of Image, with the big boys, then go there and make a little bank, that kind of thing. I I'm a nobody, so it's been a struggle that way. But I don't regret doing like an all ages book, which is really strange for Image to do in the first place, which is why I thought they'd never even reply to me. But it's tough in this environment. One reason that myself and Image decided to not do floppies after issue 10 is because, when it comes to all ages material, books are the way that kids are getting them. They're Scholastic and stuff. So we started putting out just books from that point on. So that makes it a little even more different. Being a comic creator who's sort of indie, but also has to deal with the books, the bookstore and the school library mentality of things. It's made it harder for me, a lot harder for me to sort of push things through. Because even indie creators who do like superhero books wouldn't have to think about that kind of thing. And all ages books are a hard sell anyway. I pigeonholed myself, but I love I love that area of storytelling. So.
Yeah, there's a pretty big, wide disparity, it seems like, with all ages, where you're either kind of barely surviving sort of thing, or you're selling 1 million copies, There doesn't really seem to be like that nice middle ground for most all ages creators.
Yeah, it's true. You either have one specific agent, and this person is selling you directly to the people who can make you money, or you're just struggling. I guess I'm on the other half, but like I said, it's what I do. That's I couldn't do other comics. I don't think I'd be doing it for the money, which is nice, and I've done work just for the money, but it's not the same as creating your own thing.
Yeah. Are you able to, and I don't know if you would want to do anything like this, but are you able to turn those books into floppies at some point eventually, like to get more of the comic market as opposed to the book market?
Well, the problem is that I don't think it would get more of the comic market. And that's one reason why we switched to books anyway.
Oh, okay.
After the first 2 or 3 issues, that there was a huge drop, and it just wasn't working. The books have been much better than the floppies, to be honest, over time. That's for sure. And the series has sold a surprising number of digital copies. Whenever I get my statements from Image, I'm always shocked by the digital numbers.
Man, well, that's interesting. You say
Yeah.
that because most people don't report that
Yeah.
kind of success digitally.
I'm all for it though because I when I buy physical comics these days, it's usually buying it for an artist so I can look at the art and stuff, or just a random. I'll go to the comic shop every week and pick up something. But a lot of the stuff I get these days is I'm collecting old comics via digital. So I've
Oh,
full
okay.
libraries of like the Avengers and Spider-Man and X-Men on digital.
Wow.
Still have lots of my floppies behind me from the old days, but I like reading digitally.
I wish they could figure out, and I'm just starting to do it now at Alterna with putting like simulated newsprint as an overlay,
Oh yeah,
and so it has like that softer vibe.
yeah,
And I wish they could figure that out to do the same sort of thing
yeah.
digitally with a
Well,
lot of that.
I've been picking up these facsimile editions of some Marvel comics they've been doing. This is one for X Men that just came out. And they got the letters page. They got the old ads. Like, oh, you can't see that, the old ads on it and
Oh
inside
man,
it. And I kind of wish that, like you said, I wish the paper was either newsprint or like a little yellowed, just to make it
yeah,
feel older.
like that 55-pound natural paper stock.
Yeah,
That's pretty good too.
yeah. It's
Um,
on glossy, so it's not quite the same.
oh yeah, It probably, although I don't know, I gotta look at mine. I'm remembering the Marvel Masterworks editions
Hmm.
to be on a glossy, but I can't remember if I'm
Yeah, they are.
remembering. They are?
They are.
Okay.
I think the interior pages. Yeah, I think those are glossy. I haven't had one in a while. I have them all on. That's how I basically collect the old series through the Masterworks digital editions.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
And
yeah.
they always go on sale in the holidays, so watch for them if you're a fan.
Yeah, there you go. Where are you guys offering the digital that you're seeing it do well?
Well, it's Comixology. That's I mean that was the main place. I think
Okay.
it's with a couple more, but I'm not sure to be honest. I checked one of the newer sites that sells digital comics, and although there are Image comics on there, I didn't see Oddly on there, and I think it's because they started putting comics on that platform recently, so they haven't done a lot of back issue stuff. But we'll see.
Gotcha. Yeah, Jay Toon says Masterworks paper is glossy and worse because of it. Too much reflection on the paper. I remember being a kid and I thought it was just cool to see. I only have one of them. I got the first appearance of Sabretooth because I loved Sabretooth when I was a kid. It's that Iron Fist issue.
Hmm.
And I remember liking the comic, of course, but I always felt like, man, it's not the same. Like it looks cool, but there was something about it that was just not the same as my other comics, which at the time were all on newsprint. And as of course I've gotten older, the glossy part of it, I'm like, glossy.
Yeah. Well, it works. It works well. Like from an artist standpoint, it works well for digitally colored stuff. But the like my style of coloring, I don't think would look great on newsprint. I'd have to scale back a lot, I think, in terms of rendering, and shading to make it look really good on newsprint. Some of the best stuff I've seen from Alterna is really sort of Saturday morning cartoon stuff. I mean, in terms of like the clarity of the image on the paper, it's tough. It's tough creating like really sort of nuanced imagery, like like airbrush kind of stuff. As I'm talking about. So, but yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's better on newsprint.
So is yours on a glossy or a matte?
It's mine. Let's see. It's on glossy. It's got a matte cover, but the interior pages are glossy, and it's printed pretty well.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put down.
What?
I didn't know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Otis. I didn't mean to talk smack about glossy paper
Oh
and your
no,
books on
no,
glossy.
I don't care. It's all personal preference. Um, like I said, I don't think it would have looked as good on newsprint because I think that the colors wouldn't have been as distinct. Um, so, it's okay.
Okay, forgive me. So what have been in terms of getting out this all ages comic to the masses? What have been some of the struggles that you've faced?
Well, I mean, just getting getting eyes on it. That's been the biggest trouble. I don't have the resources of a Scholastic, to get my stuff out there. I'm not sure how many people know this, but like with Image, that they do some promotion if you're a name kind of thing, but you're pretty much on your own. That's why I really feel sort of more part of the indie world, because I have to do everything, in terms of promotion and stuff. With Image, it's not a traditional publisher. I basically do everything, send them the files, and they publish it. Beyond that, it's a rare email back and forth once in a while. But so I have to do everything. I mean, no one's gonna buy ad space for me. No one's gonna push my work to anybody, via that method. So that's been a struggle. And also, like, when I attend conventions and I'm selling the books, I think that it's tougher to get people over like 12 to buy the book. You know what I mean? That's been tougher. I think if I had a more adult comic going, I think I'd probably do better at conventions. I'll do pretty well. But that's always a challenge, to get people to sort of see past the surface. You know what I mean?
You could always bait and switch like some publishers out there.
How would I do that?
Put a nice adult, not adult adult, but like an adult cover, and then on the interior they open up. They're like, "Hey, that's not what's on the front."
Oh, I always hated that.
Yeah, it's that should be like a litigious thing. That should be like a suable offense, because it is really like a bait and switch.
Yeah.
To put something that's so dramatically different. Because I've seen stuff where the covers are gorgeous, and then you look at the interior and you're like, so is this when they let like the kids draw?
Yeah.
That's so charitable of them.
I feel that way about some video games, where I'll see this beautiful sort of cover art for it, and then it's a pixel game, and I'm like, oh, where's the beautiful sort of anime game that I wanted to play?
Not for nothing, and I love these covers, but it reminds me a lot of Atari and a couple other ones back in the day, where it was amazing art, and it really is like the craziest, stupidest looking game, but the art looked fantastic. It'd be like almost like a Drew Struzan kind of painted cover.
Yeah, it was gorgeous. It was gorgeous stuff, and then we had to deal with was it even 32-bit? Was it even 32-bit?
Oh,
I don't know. 16-bit, I guess. All right.
I don't even know if it was that. Like maybe 4 at that point, because Nintendo was 8, and then like Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo were like 16 or something like that. So pre NES had to be less than the 8. And,
I think that's why I didn't get into games until I was like in my 20s, because it always looked terrible to me, and I'd play it and get bored. And then the Nintendo 64 came out, 3D happened, and I was like, okay, well, this is cool. I can get into this.
Yeah, I remember that. And it was like you had Mario, and you could kind of put the camera all around him, and you had a full scope. Yeah, look at that. Love for your art there, Otis. Christopher
thanks,
Johnson.
Christopher. Appreciate it. Thank you.
So speaking of your art, what is your methodology for that? Are you traditional? Are you digital? How do you go about it?
I'm almost 95% digital. I've never really liked drawing on paper. It's kind of weird, because I grew up
that is weird.
Way before computers. But when I got my first Intuos tablet, I knew that was it. I don't like drawing on paper because it always feels so permanent to me. I love being able to discard layers.
Wow. Okay.
I only draw on paper these days when I know that I can sell it. So a lot of fan art stuff that I do, I always I'll digitally sketch it, then print it to blue line and ink over that, and I'll sell that. But for comic work, it's 100% digital, pretty much.
Wow. Okay.
And
there's no traditional original pages for the book?
There are a handful. There are a handful of original pieces of artwork out there that were done for crowdfunding purposes, or this and that kind of thing.
Okay.
But they're very rare. They're very rare, because I don't feel the same. I like being able to edit a lot, and so digital lends that. I was going to say, these days, for the last 4 years, I've been doing all my works exclusively on iPad with Procreate, even lettering the comics. So like the entire last Oddly Normal book was produced on an iPad.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man.
In Procreate.
That's interesting that that you have that viewpoint. I'm hearing a lot more of the opposite nowadays. So it's interesting to hear someone who's all about, and not just out of the sheer fact that it's more convenient or anything like that, but you prefer it.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. I can't get into that. I can't get into to doing it that way. I've tried with the digital, and maybe I'm not using the right thing. That's probably it. Are you using something where you can draw right on the screen? Is that how you're doing it?
Yeah, it's an iPad Pro.
Yeah. Well,
I draw directly.
Maybe that's my problem then.
Maybe. I mean, I spent years drawing on a Cintiq, a large Cintiq screen tablet that sat on a desk, and I was stuck in an office working in it. Office, I hate it. Nowadays I work in an easy chair in the living room.
Oh, well, look at that.
Yeah, it's nice. I love it.
So, what are the plans for not just this series, but maybe anything else down the line that you've got going on?
Well, the main thing right now is I'm trying to get back to work. I had some health troubles recently. I was in the hospital for 30 days. It was not fun at all. Yeah, I had brain surgery, and something went wrong, and so we took 2 more surgeries to fix. I've been out of practice for a while now because of it. So I'm trying to get back up to speed so that maybe January 1st things will get back to normal with my newsletter and comics and stuff. But recovery's taken a lot out of me, so I've just been trying to relearn how to draw basically these days.
You doing okay? Are you getting there?
Oh yeah, getting there. I mean, it was weird at first when I got home from the hospital after my incarceration. I couldn't even walk. I had to relearn how to walk. So, and now I'm fine.
Okay.
But yeah, it's been a weird year for me.
And for those that maybe don't know, you weren't incarcerated for real.
Felt like it. 30 days. Oh my God. I was climbing the walls.
I can only imagine. Oh my Lord.
It was awful.
I feel for you, man. Holy smokes.
It's okay. This is my second round of brain surgery. I can do it again. It's fine. I'm kidding. Please don't hear that, universe. I can't do it again. That was awful.
It's horrible, man. Well, I'm glad that you're on the road to recovery as far as that goes, and I hope it's a speedy one.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. For those that don't know, too, Otis did a cover for Alternate on. It came out on a Wednesday. Issue numbered, what was it, 9? Am I remembering correctly? I think so.
I'm almost within arm's reach of them in my closet.
It's sold out. That's all I know. It's gone.
That's great.
Now. We've been out of them for maybe a year or two. But yeah, it was a great cover. Big monster looming over these kids near a spinner rack, and they all have their costumes on, and they're taking comics to read, and they're completely unaware of that gigantic monster behind them.
I appreciate you letting me do that.
Yeah, no problem. We got to do something again in the future in regards to a cover.
I was actually going to apologize for anything that didn't look right on that cover because before my first round of brain surgery, I was losing my sight. That's how it presented itself because it was attached to the optic nerve, and so I was actually losing my eyesight while I was working. So whenever I look back on artwork within that time frame, it's like, what was I doing? So your cover fell. Yeah, your cover fell within that time frame. So.
Wow. Well, it looked fantastic. So I mean, yeah. yeah. Metatron knows. Yeah, that was a great cover.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, no, I didn't think there was a damn thing wrong with it. It looked great.
Well, I wouldn't mind a do-over someday. That's all I'm saying.
So I'll have to see when in the future we combine forces again.
That'd be great.
I'm wondering if that was subpar work or something like that. I'm really wondering what else you got going because it was great.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Wow.
But it was just funny because I was looking back on it and today before the show, thinking, "Oh, that was during that time when I was losing the eyesight."
Wow.
Weird.
It's interesting how creating becomes like a time capsule for not just the reader but also for the creator too.
Oh, yeah.
Looking at various things and pinpoints.
It's like sometimes I listen to DVD audio commentaries, and the directors and actors will always talk about their memories aren't of the movie; it's of what was going on in their life at that time. You know what I mean? And that's how it is for me looking back on the books I've worked on or the animation I worked on. It's like I'll remember what was happening in my personal life more than I will doing the work. You know?
Yeah, it's like looking back at like a photo album, a scrapbook of memories in
Mm-hmm.
terms of what was going on when you did this, you did that. There was one thing I can remember specifically when a creator at Alterna, Tyler Wentland, was creating this cover, and he was talking about how he was sketching it out, and he texts me that he's in the waiting room waiting for his kid to be born, his first child.
Wow.
And I'm like, you are never going to forget that cover. I'm like, that's always going to be, that's the one I was working on when
Yeah.
my kid was born.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah,
We comic creators we work in strange places sometimes.
right?
Hmm.
Yeah. It's like a therapy type of thing, isn't it? Like
It's more like a deadline thing, I think, but it's therapy
you
too.
you find a way to make it both.
Yeah, there's a photo that I posted a few years ago. I was doing a work for hire thing, and it was so close to deadline that I had to bring my iPad with me when I went out to play golf with my mother and wife, and I was in the cart drawing as they were like teeing off. I don't think I never thought I would be drawing comics on the golf course, but that it ended up, that's how it was. I had a deadline.
And thus a new sport was invented.
Yes.
Take a swing, draw a panel. Yeah, Jason Bascom is great too. He's been on the channel. He's an inspirational dude as well.
Oh wow.
Yeah, yeah. He's got some kind of macular degenerative disease where he can only really see out of like corners, like peripheral vision, sort of thing, and that everything like dead on is blurry. And for a while, I thought he was just being cheeky, putting like blind guy draws on his YouTube videos, like just making fun of his art or something like that. And I'm like, you're pretty good. What are you like always making fun of yourself for? And I go to his channel and I had him on the show too, and he was explaining about that, and it was interesting because I've always had kind of crappy vision my whole life, and it's a whole other perspective to be
Oh
like,
yeah.
well, I could put on some glasses and everything's okay. Like these are prescription, and even like I have like light sensitivity and things like that, which is why when I'm doing computer work all the time, that's probably another reason why I can't really draw on digital. It starts to give me like intense migraines.
Oh.
So that's why I wear these a lot of the time when I'm doing streaming. But they're prescription and the lenses are like thick. But then talking to anybody else, there's always someone else who's overcoming something that you would think, wow, I got it bad, and then someone else is making the best out of their situation too, and it's inspiring and it really gives perspective. So I agree. A lot of people are saying he's inspiring, but they're also saying that you're inspiring too. You're an inspirational dude right there from Robert. So,
Oh, thanks, Robert. Appreciate it.
but yeah, man, you got so much going on, and you have so many more stories to tell, and you're doing so much great art. If everybody hasn't had a chance to check it out yet, you can go to Otis's site. I got it. The link is in the description of the show. Are you taking commission work and things like that? Are you looking for jobs and gigs?
Oh, and not right now. Right now, basically, I'm trying to finish up some commissions I took before my surgery, which was supposed to be 4 days, out of service, and it
Oh
turned
man.
into 30 days. But like I said, I'm working to get my comic stuff back up to speed. That's my main goal. So no, I'm not taking commissions right now. But I was also going to say, if anybody wants to see like a good variety of my work, actually the best place is my Instagram feed, and I'm Otis Frampton there. The website, like most artist websites, this becomes sort of just this place where people go and go, oh, I guess I can contact them this way. It's been kind of like that. Social media's taken over as an online presence for me, at least.
Yeah, yeah. Um, a good question for when it comes to stuff like that, because everybody is, and you talked about it a little bit before, in terms of getting out there, getting noticed for your not just your book but your art and other things too. What are you finding are the best ways to do that? What's really working for you, and then what also doesn't seem to be working for you?
I've seen that a lot in the indie comic world about how do you build a fan base or a readership. I was kind of lucky in that when I got into professional illustrating, it was through sketch cards, through Tops and Upper Deck and that kind of thing, and fell into that world. And so I drew a ton of stuff for a lot of people who collected work, um, and that helped me grow my fan base by having my work seen in that format. That was a big step for me. The next step, and unfortunately, the next step is something that people can't replicate. But I got hired as one of the artists on the YouTube series "How It Should Have Ended." I was a character and background artist for about 7 years on that show.
Oh, okay.
That brought a lot of eyes to my work, a lot of eyes. And then the last thing that brought me a lot of attention and gained my following online at least was I started drawing Jawas. And if you've ever seen any of my work, you might have seen it in Jawa form. And I just drew, hundreds and hundreds of Jawas. And so, like in terms of stuff that works, I always tell people, find something that you love. If you're an artist, find something that you love to draw, that other people also love to see. And it's finding that it's a very, it can be a very narrow window. But one of the things that happened with the whole Jawa thing for me was I found something that I loved drawing over and over and over, and everybody else seemed to enjoy it too. And so I sort of rode that, to help build my online presence and maybe hopefully funnel them to my comic work. But that's really the best way to do it is just have an online presence and put out artwork. If you're an artist, you gotta get eyes on your work, and sometimes that means drawing stuff that other people have created. You know what I mean? Be it fan art or whatever else. That it can be helpful. I don't know how I would gain it, a readership or a base as a writer. That would be tough. Luckily, I can draw, so it hasn't been as difficult.
I guess you'd really have to make sure that that those tweets or posts or whatever are well written.
Yeah, exactly.
Put some poetry up there. Put some, describing your day in a dramatic fashion. For more things like this, check out my work.
That would work for Stan Lee, or coming up in the digital age. I think he could do it because his tweets would be exceedingly exciting and entertaining to read.
Yeah, bombastic tweets.
Yeah, he would give everybody a nickname, and everything would be just the most amazing thing ever, including this tweet, that kind of thing. Kind of wish that happened.
Right? Yeah. There's an angle. You can find an angle for whatever it is to stand out, cut through the noise. That's interesting that you say that, though, in terms of being able to, how you grew your audience. Why Jawas, though? What about them?
Well, aside from the fact that I like drawing them, and I found a way to draw them that was actually unique to me. You look at one of my Jawas. I actually did a drawing where I drew one of my Jawas and then sort of a movie accurate Jawa, and they don't look alike, and it's a commentary on that. But I found something that worked for me, and also I kind of found I discovered they were kind of like minions in a way. You could put them in any situation, and the people would see them as like avatars, because I drew them with basically big black faces with eyes, expressive eyes, and I think people saw themselves in it in a way, in a strange way, these little creatures that didn't speak, but through the visuals they could understand it, and I think that was one of the appeals.
Yeah. Well, I guess it really plays to the strengths of your cartooning and being expressive with that art.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
One of the, this is actually something that I tell people who ask for, advice about about drawing and stuff. But if you're an artist trying to get attention, one of the best things you can do is try to put a little story in everything you draw, no matter what it is. A little bit of story so that the viewer can connect with it. I mean, yeah, it's great if you can draw, an accurate Superman with every muscle in place, but what's Superman doing in the drawing is, if you put story in something, people gravitate towards that in a big way. People love stories.
That's true. Yeah, what's he doing? What's he reacting to?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing. You're right. It definitely makes a more interesting piece, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Humor too. If you can manage to get humor in it, then you'll, the prints that I bring to appearances and conventions and stuff, the ones that sell most are always the humorous ones. People love that. They love connecting with it via a laugh.
Yeah, that's true. Well, man, if there's final question, if there is something that you could tell anyone here that may be watching, that's starting off, something that you wish someone or you, knowing what you know now, would want to tell them, something that you didn't know when you were starting off, what would that be?
Something I didn't know.
Yeah, but now you know.
Well, it's one specific thing because I think about it a lot, and it might sound cynical, but networking is more important than you think it will be. Even if it's just to gain a group of creative friends around you. So I always say, look, if you're an artist, get a table at a convention. Get a table at a convention, put your artwork out there. Go around, talk to the other artists, meet people. You're not alone. You don't have to be alone to do this. And I wish I'd figured that out sooner. You know what I mean? It's good to have a group of people that you can bounce ideas off of and just talk to about everyday life, because we spend so much time in isolation. It's not the most social career to get into. So, call it networking, call it friend making, call it whatever you want, but you're not alone, and don't think that you have to be.
Yeah, that's great advice. Great advice. Because, we do have a tendency to work in a vacuum and live in a vacuum. And then it just becomes, you're driving yourself, and maybe, if you're lucky, your significant other a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
And God bless them.
Yeah. Well, I guess that would be my second piece of advice is if you're looking for a significant other, find one that can tolerate your career, your chosen career.
Man, sainthood for those individuals.
Oh yeah.
First in line.
Yes. Nope. They're comic book widows is what they are.
Oh man.
Or widowers.
Man. Yep. Truer words. Well, thank you so much, Otis. This was great. Good catching up with you. I'm glad to see that you're getting full steam ahead for the upcoming year, and that you've been still going at it and keeping at it, and keep it up, man, because it's you're making good stuff, and that's important. We need that, especially for all ages out there.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate you having me on. It's really cool. 2023 tried to snuff me out, but I'm alive, and I'm actually really, really happy to be alive, and that's kind of influenced me moving forward. I can't wait to put stuff out there again.
Well, I'm happy you're alive too, my friend.
Thanks.
It's like the intro of the show with that Rocky speech. Nothing's gonna hit harder than life. So.
I love that scene.
Oh yeah.
I love that scene. It's like one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie.
Oh yeah, entire series, to be perfectly honest, man. Talk about a great summary of the events of all 6 of those movies.
Yep.
The Creed ones, whatever. They're Creed movies. They're not Rocky movies. So it's different. But
I like them all. But
there you go. Otis, thank you so much, man. Everybody in the chat, thank you guys too for being here tonight, and appreciate that. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your comments and everything. And Robert, I agree. Yeah, Disney should let Otis do that, Jawa Droid Comic, but they won't, because they're buttheads. Someday, yeah. Who knows? Yeah, things are happening. Things are in the works. Who knows what's going to happen down the line? But everybody, thank you once again for being here tonight. And Otis, before we go, where can they find you?
OtisFrampton.com, and I am Otis Frampton, one word, pretty much on every social media.
There you go. Nice and easy.
I try to keep it simple.
Some people, it's all over the place, But there you go. All right, everybody. Again, just a quick reminder: tonight's the last night of that new moon special on the King Cryptid campaign. Head on over to Alterna Comics or KingCryptid.com. Pick that up. Pick up a bunch of great stuff too at Alterna Comics. Unfortunately, you can't get the issue that Otis did a cover on because it's been sold out for about 2 years. But maybe it's on eBay. And I think I'm remembering correctly that it came out on Wednesday, number 9. If I'm remembering incorrectly, just look up the Otis Frampton cover. Google it real quick, and it'll be there.
Hold up. Oh well.
I'm pretty sure. It's number 9. I swear. But again, if it's not, I've published like 400 different books. Forgive me, please. But it's a great cover, awesome cover. Pick it up. Other than that, I'll be back tomorrow night. Who will I have on? I've got Brian Shearer on the show.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, Brian will be on, and we'll be discussing all the cool things he's up to as well. So Otis, again, thank you for coming on the show, talking about your adventure into indie all ages comic book making, and some great advice during the course of the show too. Hey, Robert's got his. There you go. And of course, go pick up Oddly Normal and a bunch of other great things that Otis is doing. The link is in the description of the show. Go over to his website and see some of the cool art that's there too. As far as that goes, that's it. Everybody have a great night and an even better tomorrow. I'll see you guys soon. Everyone take it easy.